So today we want to talk about responsive web design and the importance that that has to your business. Jeremy Mullins is with me. Jeremy is our senior marketing director, and I'm the founder of Valorous Circle and Restoration Marketing. And we just want to chat today about responsive web design. Jeremy, why don't you kick off? Why is that so important? Well, I guess before why it's important, what is responsive web design and why is it important to a business?
So responsive web design is when your website is built to, I guess I want to say, be elastic on the different types of devices people use. So we have computers, tablets, and mobile devices, and each experience should be, I guess I want to say, organic in whatever one you're using. For instance, on a computer, you have a mouse you can move around, versus on your phone, you literally have the ability to scroll and push buttons. So being conscious of when you design a website, how it looks in both platforms and how it functions in both platforms will not only help your end goal, it'll make sure that clients can find the information easily enough on the website.
Well, I think one of the big differences, remembering back to the old days, so to speak, I should probably do that in air quotes, but in the old days, we had a desktop site and we had a mobile site. And while that had some advantages that we knew exactly what was there, I also remember it was a royal pain in the what, because we had to update two websites, you had to design two websites, you had to maintain two websites. And I think one of the things that's so cool about responsive web design nowadays is that, again, we can design one beautiful site that looks great, that's optimized for conversion, and we can have it work on virtually every device that's out there, whether they're a desktop experience that they come in, a tablet, or a mobile phone. Certainly understanding that tablets are the least important of those, probably. Nothing against them. I use it for surfing the web all the time. But if we look at stats, desktop and mobile, depending on where you look, are roughly 50-50, 60-40% of the market in most cases. I think that's just one of the huge differences today. And then we, again, don't have to maintain multiple sites to do that.
Yep.
So I know one of the questions I get sometimes is, does that mean you can't show special content just on a desktop or just on the mobile site? So I remember, talking to a client that said, hey, I want to run a promotion, but I only want to run it for my mobile users, my mobile website users. And I know that's possible. Anything you can add about kind of how that works and the options that we have, even with responsive, to show related or different content to people depending upon the device they come in on?
You should be able to show things to only a particular, I guess I want to say, frame, meaning like, when somebody comes in on a tablet, it's going to be a native size, and you can hide things when it shows up in that size to a certain point. So I think the easiest way is just to make sure that if you want it only in mobile, you only have it available in the mobile design and hide it in the rest of the designs. Now that doesn't say if they switch over to they shrink their window, it won't show up on desktop. It's just chances of people doing that on the desktop are pretty slim.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think it probably depends on the platform you're using too. Obviously, at this time in history, we're big proponents of WordPress and Elementor for doing that. There's a lot of other tools that are out there. But I think, yeah, as you described, it should be relatively simple for someone to say, all right, on this screen size, which is a mobile, I want to show this, but I don't want to show that on a desktop resolution. And like you said, I think it'd be pretty rare that, unless somebody knew there was some special only for mobile users, I can't imagine them trying to figure that out on their desktop. They just pick up their phone and look at it.
Yeah. Jonathan, how do you think, when people are on their phones, we have to think differently. How do you think the psychology behind mobile for responsiveness has changed in the last 5 years versus when it first came out?
I think probably the biggest thing that we see, and certainly that we recommend, is that you think about mobile first, because more and more every year, more users are using mobile, more people are visiting your website on mobile. I even see it in my personal habits. I mean, I used to be, I'd have a tablet or my computer on my lap if I was at home. Obviously at work, I'm on my laptop. And so I didn't necessarily use my phone a lot to search. But now I don't pull my laptop out at home, and I'm often in meetings and things like that where I may not have my laptop. So mobile first has really become a reality for the way I consume the web, and I think, I'm in my 50s. I see that with a lot of other people that are older and younger too. Even my mother-in-law, I mean, she's in her 70s, and she loves her tablet, but she surfs the web on her phone or her tablet. Rarely, if ever, does she get her laptop out. So I think the big difference is now we're looking at our audiences and going, regardless of age, we know the young people are doing it, but regardless of age, that mobile first paradigm, I think, has become so important, because
Yeah.
that is the largest growing aspect of where we are. And we have to make sure that it looks good without being overwhelming. I think years ago we were more comfortable with there being too much data on a mobile screen, because we knew most people would see it on a desktop. Nowadays, I think we're simplifying a lot of the designs and the layouts in particular, which I think makes a better user experience by
Hmm.
thinking mobile first.
Yep.
I mean, how about you? What have you seen, or what do you think in that area?
Well, I think since the introduction of wireless earbuds, I think when you are on mobile, you're not just thinking about text, right? You have to think about video and audio as well, because somebody could digest that information off of an audio recording or a video. And the fact that like a website could implement that, I mean, I could pull it up, I could hit play, and I can listen to it with your earpod. I mean, which everybody has those in nowadays. It's not obscure or weird, and you're able to consume that information pretty responsiveness. I mean, pretty accurately. Even what's on the blog. So, or in this case, that's what I'm talking about, is an article or a blog.
No, absolutely. And I think that's probably a follow on to that, is that I'm really noticing a big difference in the content that we're creating for our websites nowadays, especially when it comes to content marketing and creating content that our audiences are going to be utilizing. Video, I think, has really become the go-to for everything. If for no other reason, that video is so much easier to engage in than it used to be.
Hmm.
It's very immersive, so it creates that experience we want with our prospects and our customers. And from a marketer's perspective, I love video because I can shoot one video and then I can parlay that into multiple types of content. I can post a video, obviously. I can use the audio, either as a podcast or sending it out as a blog post. I can have it transcribed, and with the AI tools that are out there nowadays, like Descript, literally, I mean, I can upload that video and Descript's going to kick out the transcript of that for me in literally maybe a minute or two, depending on how long that video is.
Yep.
And I can post that, and I can use that as my blog post. I can post that in as a transcript for SEO on my website. Plus, I can send it off to Vimeo and YouTube. And now we've got TikTok and Instagram and Facebook Reels. Rumor is LinkedIn's coming out with their own version of that. There's so much opportunity to take that video and then repurpose it into multiple things. I think it's become part of that responsive web design, and that it's now impacted the type of content that we're creating.
Yeah, it's speed and accuracy, right? That's kind of what it comes down to
Absolutely.
with responsive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the other thing. You mentioned speed. I think speed's really critically important. The average user isn't going to wait 4 to 5 seconds for your web page to load.
No.
The good news is there's so many things that can be done from a technical perspective to help that. But a lot of it, I think, just boils down to we are ending up with somewhat more simple websites as a result of that. In other words, video backgrounds and sliders used to be the thing. If
Hmm.
5 years ago, everybody wanted a sliding background on their homepage. We then realized through statistics that most people saw the first, maybe the second slider, and that was it. They never saw the eighth one,
Yep.
let alone the third. We also realized that tends to slow the website down, and therefore that may not be a good thing to have. Maybe a static image with rotating text as a different layer can load 5 or 10 times faster and still have the same impact for the
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah, and plus you're not getting pinged by Google either, right? Because they will penalize you on rankings if your website's slow. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think we all as business owners need to be careful that we don't chase that site speed score like it's the crown jewels. It's important, but I also know I've seen people drive themselves crazy over a tenth of a second. A tenth
Yeah.
of a second in my personal opinion, isn't going to matter.
No.
A 1 second page load or second and a half page load versus a 10-second page load, that's a big deal.
Yep.
But if you can get your website to load that home page, the above the fold, that part that holds on the screen, to load in 2 seconds, I think you're doing fine. Even if Google says you should do better, I think that's fine. I think that again is part of why we need to change some of the content we're putting on there.
Yep. Agreed. So how does it feel to have the whole internet in your hands every single day? How does that feel? I mean, to me, it's kind of weird.
It's interesting. I just commented the other day to an associate of mine. How did we do things before a question could come up in a meeting and we could all Google the answer?
Yeah.
I honestly, I remember those days. I'm old enough, but I don't remember what that was like because it's become just so commonplace. As I talked earlier, to have that phone in our hand, even in the middle of a meeting, and to be able to Google the answer to that, or to go pull up somebody's website and reference that and find the information we need. Anything from, the local pizza place that we're ordering lunch from to, the boxes that we're ordering for the warehouse or anything in between, that information's all online now. And I think it's just totally changed the way we do things. And more importantly, it's changed the way our customers do things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to understand that regardless of the field that we're in, whether we're, dealing with disaster restoration and pulling, water out of people's basements that have flooded, or if we're selling, custom socks with faces on them. I saw one of my friends, Dennis Yu, had talked the other day about this site he goes to. He buys socks that he can upload your Facebook image to, and they print them up with your face on them.
That's
so
cool.
Regardless of what you're selling, all of that information's there nowadays, and people are expecting it. I think the challenge comes in as a designer and as a marketer is the best way to make that available, because we also know that most people don't want all of the information all of the time. So we need to make it accessible to them without bombarding them with more than they need in order to make that purchasing decision or that next step decision.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, I guess my thought is, you and I both know that our job is to think like about today, but also think about tomorrow, so our clients are never falling behind. And
Absolutely.
there's rumors of Apple Glass coming out and like all these augmented reality things coming out. Like, how do you think that's going to change web design in the future?
Well, I think web design, much like Google search, has changed in a lot of ways, but has also remained the same in a lot of ways. I sold my first website back in 1995, probably before some of you watching this were even born. Back then, the goal still was relatively simple. We wanted to explain to our prospects what it was that the business did.
Mm-hmm.
Probably most importantly, what that meant to the customer. Why should they care? And then what should they do next? Now, the bar was a lot lower in 1995 than it is today because our expectations were a lot lower. But I really don't see that aspect of it changing a whole lot. I think that as humans, we continue to take media in similar ways, and we have similar goals. If I'm looking to buy a new mouse for my computer, and I care to take the time to research that, I don't want to buy the same one. I don't probably care a whole lot about your company. I probably don't care a whole lot about all the awards that you've won. I want to know, how is that mouse going to make my job better? How is it going to make me more productive? How is it going to make my hand not hurt if I've got carpal tunnel or whatever the case may be? And I think that's a trend that we're going to continue to see, that and we see it with our clients, where we try to help them understand, what is it that you do that makes your customers' lives better? And I think even as we go into augmented reality, that's going to be so important. I predict we're going to see a lot of companies that focus first on, hey, look at us, look how great we are. We're going to give you the augmented reality so that you can walk around our office or you can walk around our facility. And I don't think most customers care. I think in turn, if I was using the car example, I don't want to see your showroom. I want you to, through augmented reality, let me drive the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think we're going to see a lot of businesses miss that, candidly, because businesses love to talk about themselves. But hopefully, through marketers like ourselves and our brethren in the industry, we can encourage people to focus again on what's the value to the customer, as opposed to talking all about us and how great we are.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents. You probably have more experience in that than I do. What do you think?
I always think about, like, what happens in the back end.
Sure.
Building the blocks of a website takes work, and I'm really curious to see how the workflow will be different, because we're going to have 4 different platforms to be thinking about on a consistent basis versus just the 3 that we have now: computers, tablets, and phones.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think from the design opportunity is definitely there to have some fun and some impact for our clients moving forward. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I think the whole virtual reality is going to open up some opportunities that we haven't really fully imagined. I mean,
Hmm.
the concept of me sitting in my easy chair at home with my VR goggles on, or even sitting in a VR room down the road thinking of Star Trek's holodecks. I think we're a lot closer to that than some people realize. Where I can call my son who lives in Minneapolis, and we can sit in the same virtual room and have a conversation with each other, even though he's 10 hours away. I think that type of thing will happen, and I think that's going to be impactful for a lot of industries in a lot of different ways. Yeah,
Hmm.
the simple stuff, we can have meetings and it may seem more like we're in person, but I think it'll even help for again, and go back to the damage restoration example. If I'm a company that fixes flooded basements and I deal with that, the ability for my team to essentially be on site virtually within minutes,
Hmm.
as opposed to an hour or more. Same when it comes to safety services and things like that. The ability to, again, make things just, again, speed up that much more,
Hmm.
whether it be, the virtual dressing room for the clothes I want to buy, or that virtual inspector who can look and see, oh, here's the problem that you've got, and try to address that. I think all of those things will just, in general, speed up the pace of commerce and the pace that we make decisions at.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine, for our restoration clients, like having a client be able to take their phone, record what they're doing, and the person can see, like, really closely with all the detail, because cameras are getting better and better, and be like, all right, these are the tools I'll need for the job. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Like, there's just
Yeah.
the services can go through the roof. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to open up a lot of opportunities, and it reminds me. You talked a little bit AI, as an I. The other day, somebody asked me, hey, Jonathan, part of what you guys do is develop websites. With all the new AI technologies that are out there, do you think that's going to go away at some point? And while I think AI is going to change that, like it's going to change a lot of businesses, I don't think it's going to go away, because I still think that's in the area where, again, the experts add value by helping figure out, how do we use this VR in ways that maybe we haven't thought about. It's
Hmm.
more than just a better way to meet. It's more than a way to go to a conference without having to fly to Las Vegas. Um, those are parts of it, but there's a lot more, and I think we'll see a lot of that in the next, I think, just few years. I think we're going to see a lot more related to that.
I do too. I do too, and I'm ready for it. So
I think it'll be cool. It'll be fun. I'm
yeah,
not giving up my motorcycle though. That wind therapy, I don't think they can replace that. I know you like your bike as much as I like mine, but
there's
I
there's
just don't think they're going to replace all of those aspects.
there's not a fan strong enough.
It's like the roller. If you ever watched, I love roller coasters,
Yep.
and I've watched videos before of you going on the roller coaster, and they've mounted that camera on the front car and everything, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong; it's better than not being there, but it's still not the same. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel the same. It doesn't smell the same. The G forces are different. Yeah, you can still get the pit in your stomach a little bit visually, but you miss out on so much of that. I think that's the other thing we're going to see, kind of like I just said the other day, I need to put a video together about how postal mail is coming back important into marketing campaigns. In the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen most people abandon a lot of that. I mean, the amount of junk mail we get is insignificant compared to what we used to get.
Yep.
And now I think that we've kind of come full circle on that. And now is the time when, in certain areas, in certain aspects of those campaigns, mail's picking up again because, again, it's now a unique experience. And I think we'll probably see that with VR, where we're going to see a huge shift to VR for a lot of this, even in the marketing space. And then as people get oversaturated with that, we're going to come back to some real experiences, kind of like we did through COVID. I mean, we had lots of virtual conferences, and then everybody was like dying and clamoring to do face to face because we hadn't done it in 2 years. I think we'll see
Yep.
similar things in VR.
Yeah, I think you're right. Had, just curious, have you ever played around with the Oculus before? Oculus 2 or?
I have only once, and it was playing a video game, and it was amazingly immersive. I was shocked how well it was, and this was probably a year and a half ago. So I
Okay.
haven't done it. I haven't done it real recently, but I was even that what was available a year and a half ago. I was amazed at how immersive the experience really was.
Yeah.
No matter where I looked, that world was mapped out and made sense. And again, what it reminded me of, I'm a Star Trek fan of some level,
Yep.
but in the Star Trek TV shows, they always had the holodeck,
Yep.
and you could load a program on the holodeck, and even though the deck wasn't that big, no matter where you went, the world expanded around you. And I really see that same thing in VR happening, and really cool from that perspective because, let's say I want to go see what the Vatican's like, but I don't want to fly to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could get a lot of that experience just through VR. Now, it's
Mm-hmm.
not the same, just like riding the motorcycles, but that's where I see the marketing aspects of VR really coming in, because I think we're going to have an opportunity as businesses to be that much more immersive with our customers and helping them understand what we do and how we add value to their lives, just to kind of bring it full circle, because that's how I think. But I
Yeah.
do think VR is going to present untold opportunities for creating those immersive experiences with our customers and prospects as well.
Yeah.
How about you? I don't have, we've not talked about this much. Have you done much with VR at all?
Well, we have an Oculus, Oculus
Okay.
2. Um, I play a video game on there with my friend from college, and it's exactly what you say. I mean, it's fully immersive, and like just the technology is advancing so quickly. And I know this conversation we were just talking about responsive web design, but
Yeah. Well,
I think it's
I
full
imagine
circle.
you and I have got off scope.
I I don't think we're off scope. It's just I think that business owners need to be aware of what's coming next. Because
Yeah.
I remember when Google pulled the rug out from everybody's feet, saying if your website isn't mobile by this date, we're just not going to search it anymore.
Yeah.
And that really pulled the rug out of a lot of people's businesses because they were in panic mode, and it threw people for a loop. And I just want to make sure that people are always thinking ahead, and just like we always have to think ahead to make sure that we're not missing a beat. So it's important.
Well, and hopefully that's why people, engage with us, whether that's on a paid basis or just consuming our content.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's where we can add value to them, and helping them think about what things are upcoming, and knowing they don't have to worry about it all. There's agencies like us out there that are happy to do it because we love this stuff,
Hmm.
and love figuring out what's coming next, and how to capitalize on it in a way to make that user experience better.
Yep. We're just big bearded geeks, Jonathan. That's all we are.
Yeah, big and bearded. I get you on both, and definitely a little geeky. So,
Cool.
yes, awesome.
Great
Well, good
conversation.
discussion. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So, Jeremy, let me ask you this: if somebody has questions about responsive web design, or maybe parts of this conversation just didn't make sense, is that something that your marketing team, can help answer questions of?
Absolutely. You can always reach out. My email is jeremy.mullins, Mullens, at valorcircle.com. I'm always happy to take questions and just have a conversation about technology. I'm a huge geek. So,
Cool. Yeah, same. I love to be a resource, and yeah, I want to encourage you, if you have questions, reach out to us. You may be surprised that you get a video message back or even a phone call.
yep. Or virtual ping.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Touche.